站住，不许走！
Alright, nope, nope, nope. I've had it with the ice puns. They're just not cool. About it. So, all of the ice puns aside, let's get right into the story. Not the news, because otherwise this would be a different YouTube channel. To start off with, we see NASA are waiting to review a signal from a probe that lands on Mars. And the Doctor, Bill and Nardole are also present. How on earth they managed to get into NASA's mission control, even if the TARDIS landed in the hallway outside, I will never know. Maybe the guards on duty were chilled out. So they receive a signal from the probe, which I'm fairly certain are usually on the ground, but I'm willing to look over the finer details of this for the sake of the story. And up pops the good old British mantra, God save the Queen, because that isn't overused and rehashed enough. So naturally the Americans were probably angry that the British beat them to Mars, because all we have at the moment is Tim Peake and a few blokes on Stargazing Live. The Doctor, Bill and Nardole appear then in some generic caverns. And all is not as it seems. Bill somehow miraculously survives a 20-foot drop down a hole, and we see some ice warriors. Because it's an Ice Warrior episode. What were you expecting, goddammit? If Bill were in the classic series, though, she would definitely have twisted her ankle after that drop. And probably needed some ice to help it not swell. I'll just stop there. Oh, and the TARDIS hates Nardole now, so it decided to go back to present-day Earth. There, apparently, is a surviving Ice Warrior who crashed on Earth and is now serving afternoon tea. Is there an afternoon on Mars? No. Somebody find out, please, if there's an afternoon on Mars. And he's serving this afternoon tea to some Regency. Not this again. Oh, God. No. No. Victorian soldiers, whose names I've completely forgotten, but Gatiss nicely points out with a decent Star Trek reference that as they are wearing red, they're all very likely to die, other than the weasel of a colonel who will get his comeuppance and probably die due to his status as a moustache-twirling villain. So they went on a jolly to Mars to plunder its resources in a very British manner. Continuity-wise, it is set 2 years after Tooth and Claw, so it would have been nice to have a reference to either that episode or the Tortured Institute, but instead we get a really, really bad reference to Sleep No More, which we really don't need, Gatiss. I know you did that episode, but we don't need it. We need some sort of mental blocker for that episode. We are then introduced to the main part of the story. Tomb of the Cybermen 2. I will never be as well remembered as the aforementioned classic, which I think is a shame because the classic has a form of racism in it, and this doesn't. One of the soldiers is black, yeah, and Bill is too. He corrected what Tomb of the Cybermen got wrong, okay? Anyway, in the standard cliche of any searching for something story, although only Friday the Ice Warrior knows what they are searching for, they come across the tomb of an Ice Empress, because apparently that's a thing now. Due to not being able to remember the Ice Empress's name, I will probably call her Elsa? No. Jadis? Maybe. May. Let's go with May. Anyway, she looks like a green scaly version of the Predator. Turns out that all that was required to wake May was a removal of a crystal from her tomb, which your stereotypical, not so artful Dodger does before quickly getting zapped by, I can't believe I'm calling it this, a squareness gun. Yeah, I can just see the continuity getting chucked out the window right there. So there is some shooting from both humans and May, and Friday, the Ice Warrior, who swapped sides because he's an Ice Warrior. How did you not see this coming? which made relationships slightly frosty between the two species. And here comes the conflict. May wants to kill people because the honour and glory of Mars require it. Plus, after sleeping for 5,000 years, it doesn't surprise me that she's slightly cranky. I probably would be too. And here we go full Tomb of the Cybermen, as she wakes her warriors from cryo-sleep. Okay, that one is legit. It isn't a deliberate joke on my part. The Victorian soldiers think that blocking the tomb entrance will stop the Ice Warriors in May, which it does for a while. Then Mr. Moustache Twirler outed the leader as a deserter not hanged properly. P.S. Whoever the British Army gets to hang deserters should be sacked. They did a really bad job. And then Moustache Twirler put said leader, the Doctor, and Bill in a cell. Whatever shall our plucky adventurers do? But wait, what's this? Ice Warrior is evolving. Ice Warrior evolved into Rabbit Ice Warrior. Rabbit Ice Warrior learnt burrow into rock and appear behind enemy lines. Rabbit Ice Warrior used burrow into rock and appear behind enemy lines. It is super effective. And remember the black dude that I was talking about earlier? Yeah, he goes on about his girlfriend back home, essentially making himself into a version of the security guard who is one day off retirement before being killed cliché. Then by chance, Friday, that Ice Warrior who was helping the region's Victorian soldiers, but who is now betraying them for Ice Queen May and was never on the soldier side, now sees that for some reason he has to be on the soldier's side for some reason. Probably peace. You could make a religion out of that. And then Mr. Moustache Twirler deserts because of all my bad ice puns, definitely. And also he was a coward. The Doctor promises mutually assured destruction unless they sit down and talk, by threatening to use the mega drill to dig into the ice cap above their head and encase everything in snow and ice. That's pretty cold even by the Doctor's standards. Mr. Moustache Twirler turns up again and threatens Her Majesty Queen May, trying to take her back to his ship and leave them stranded on Mars. But is stopped by former leader, deserter, who is now not a deserter and still not a leader. The now non-deserter, but possibly leader, then goes on to commit an even worse act of treason by pledging his life to Queen May, and not to Queen Victoria, which I'm sure would infuriate Queen Vicky even more than Tennant Rose trying to make her say, "We are not amused." Also, who else would pay to see a fight between Queen Victoria and Queen May? I know I would. Then something about a golden age of Mars and joining the Space EU. I'm sure it won't work out in the end. And finally, the Doctor and Bill and Mr. Non-Deserter, who is now committing full-blown treason, create that sign so that the Doctor, Bill and Nardole would see it in the future, and time becomes a loop. And Missy appears to save the Doctor and Bill from having to spend a life on Mars. I'm so not funny. This is just... It's getting cringy. The Doctor's real mad about her flying his TARDIS, and we see the episode ending with them staring into each other's face like it's Captain America's Civil War. Overall, it was decent, a better story than Sleep No More, which isn't saying much. It canonises the water of Mars, and therefore decanonising Kill the Moon, which is always a huge plus for an episode. It tries way too hard to be an Ice Warrior version of Tomb and the Cybermen, though. Some of the bits are gimmicky, and the fact that the leader Ice Warrior was a woman and would only take Bill's opinions on matters as a valid opinion really feels like Gatiss he went and visited Tumblr, which makes him relatable as a human being. However, it works. Its themes of desertion and redemption decently tie into the series as a whole, and into the next episode, who will eventually be reviewed. I'm sorry this came out so late. Look, I've been busy. It's a tough time in the summer. It always is. Don't judge me. We also get a bit of progression with Missy arc going on. Nardole is Nardole. Bill starts to fall into the dangerous generic female companion role similar to where Clara started, but Pearl Mackie saves it from completely falling, so respect to her for that. Capaldi is still the best Doctor. May is Bay. And I am out of here with a comfy score of 7 out of 10. Would recommend again.